Hey, good morning, everyone. Futures Barizio here, 11:40 a.m. on Friday, September 26th. Hope everybody's having a good day and wrapping up the week here. And just want to drop in here, make a another video just kind of around this COT index trading, etc. And I've made some changes in terms of like markets that I'm following. I've continued to do a lot of back testing. I've shown you guys a lot of markets in the last couple of weeks since I've been doing this, and I've kind of expanded and then shrunk and then expanded, and now I've shrunk my list again, and I'm basically down to about about five markets now, and we're just going to go over those quick. And the reason why is because, well, first of all, I don't want to look at that many markets, even though, as I've stated, the thing with trading this, using this tool in your trading, I don't want to call it a methodology or a strategy because it's not. It's a tool that you can use for direction. Is that even though these trades are not going to come along very often, it's still a lot of analysis that I have to do. And I think if you sprinkle around some markets from different sectors of the futures markets, that you should be able to continue to find opportunities on a reasonable basis. Again, it's not. This is going to be something where you may not trade a particular market for potentially for weeks or months. If there's no setup. But in back testing, I've found that a lot of these are not consistent with this tool and just not reliable enough. If I'm going to wait weeks or even months for a setup based on this tool, and then I take it and it completely blows up in my face because the signal is not valid. Uh, and I've done that through back testing to kind of confirm that there are a lot of places where it's not good and it's not consistent. Again, nothing is 100% of work all the time. But when I back test something like this and I want to know how good it is, especially if I may not get a trade, like I said, in one of these markets for a long period of time, I want to know there's a reasonably good chance that when a trade does come along that it's going to work out. Okay. And so I have consolidated a little bit. You can see basically what I've got left here right now is five markets. So I have corn, soybean meal, rice, believe it or not, and I've never traded rice, but the COT data on this is pretty good. And I can trade this both on my personal account and my funded account. They have rice as one of the commodities that they have. So great. Um, and crude oil and Australian dollar. Uh, Believe it or not, I have back tested pretty much all the other major currencies, and the Australian dollar, for whatever reason, is the only one that relatively is consistent with the COT index. I don't know enough about the Australian dollar to know why that is, but in my back testing, I look back at years of data on the other seven major currencies, or six, because you really can't trade dollar futures, but all the other six major currencies, and I couldn't find anything really consistent. So I've narrowed it down to just the Aussie, and that's fine because that's a completely different market anyway. So this is what I'm going to go with for now, and I'll continue to poke around some other markets and back test as we go through time. But this is what I'm going with. And so let's take a quick look at what we've got now. So this is on TradingView, and I have this COT index on here, and this pretty much lines up with the one that's on Insider Week on this one. So that was crude oil. So let me go over to crude oil on Insider Week. And remember, the COT index on here only shows the commercials, whereas the one on TradingView also shows the large specs and the small specs. So if you go on Insider Week, again, if you look at where it is right now, it's up in this very high, extreme long position, starting to bend down a little bit. We will get a new report out later today, so this will update over the weekend. And if we go over to here, you can see it pretty much lines up. It doesn't look exactly the same, but it's still in the extreme long area and bending down. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, for crude oil, basically it tends to be better actually. Well, it depends. Either this one could work where either it starts to bend long either when it comes into the oversold the overbought area, or as it exits it. So I'm going to just play both sides of it. Now, when I look at just price action right now, this is crude oil. Again, this is a weekly chart. Okay, so this is a very long time frame, but we'll just start here. You can see maybe we do have a potential low setting up, and again, potential higher low setting up in here. We had this low put in, and then price began to come out of this. The COT index came out of the extreme long. Price did rally, and then we temporarily went down. We had this 2-week period where prices dropped again pretty aggressively, and then over the coming weeks, and then the COT index is now back up here again, and you can see what's happening here. This week looks like, at least right now, it looks like it's going to end on a very bullish week right here. If you look at this current candle, which is this week, right here, and let's see how this ends up today. Okay. And is this a higher low? Have we put in a little base here and we're going to turn higher? I don't know. We'll see. But the COT index, especially if we get an update on this today and we see the COT index come down further here and even maybe start to exit this extreme long position area, I would, if it even starts coming down, I don't know if in 1 week it'll go from here to below this line. Obviously, this is just an arbitrary 80% level. I can make this whatever I want. But just to see if it continues to trend down. And it's the same thing over here, right? Let's see, how it plays out on this COT index, which pretty much shows the same thing. Okay, so that's crude oil. So I may be shifting bias more along here. We'll see what happens. Excuse me. On the Australian dollar, let's see. So on the Australian dollar, when the price tends to come out of these extreme zones, that's when it tends to start to react in the direction. So here, if we go back in time, again, on this chart, the blue line is the commercials. You can see it comes out of the extreme long and it starts to rally. You can see here it comes out of the extreme short. Actually, this one, it started to go down in the short area right here. Okay, and so now we are down here on the commercials. We're way down here in the extreme short position. And so let's see what happens. And we also have the large traders, the non-commercial large speculators, get, of course, being the opposite, going up into the extreme long area. Okay, and if we look in the past, when they come out of the extreme long area, prices tend to go down. So let's see what happens today. So my bias on this right now is a little bit neutral. I'd like to see how this shakes out today. But if we just look at the commercials, as they get into these selling areas is generally when the price starts to go down. So now the commercials are down into this extreme area. This is I'm watching the commercial line more than the non-spec large speculators in the red. I'm watching more of this blue line. So now we're down here in this extreme short position. So let's see what we get here. I go over to my MetaTrader chart. Well, this would have been a good trade, huh? See this arrow I have over here? This is the 15-minute chart. I did this, I guess this was earlier this week when I said price was going to continue down, and boy, did it. But anyway, so you can see for the last couple of days we've been rallying up here. This is only a 15-minute chart. And if we look at go out to a 4-hour chart, let's see what happens. At least according to the COT data, we should begin to see some sort of move to the downside here, just based on, the extreme short position commercials have gotten into. But there could be a delay, right? If you look back in time, sometimes it happens, as soon as they get into that area. Other times there's a delay like here of a couple of weeks. So, but overall, when it gets into this area, it does tend to sell off. Okay. So now we're down here again. So that's why I'm my bias on this market is to the downside. Okay, now we have been going down since this is again, this is only this is a 4-hour chart. We started heading down here um, last week on the 17th. We started going down. Remember, this is a very zoomed in view because the COT data is on the weekly chart. So this is a 4-hour. So I certainly could be a lot more opportunity to go short here. I just started watching the Aussie here recently, so obviously I've missed all this, but I certainly am open to seeing some sort of pullback here, which we seem to be getting now, and then wait for some kind of rejection and price start to turn down again. Okay, so again, this is where your technical skills come in. And, do we look at some kind of, Fibonacci retracement here? Price would get up, up here. You want to talk about fair value gaps. If you start talking about your smart money stuff, here's an FVG right here, which would line up at the 50 or the 61.8 level. So let's see what happens. But overall, for now, I'm looking at being more short on the Aussie just based on the COT, and I'll wait for opportunities to play out on the shorter time frames, which is not going to happen today, obviously. So then we get into a new market, which is rice. And rice, is obviously just a pure commodity. It's a grain, and this falls in pretty well with the COT data when it gets into these extreme areas. And again, with the commercials, it tends to react. So as it gets into these, for instance, short areas, it tends to go down. Now, one thing to remember, the reason why I threw a moving average on here, and of course you don't really need it, you can see the trend, is these signals tend to be better when they're in the direction of the weekly trend. So obviously, we've been in a downtrend here, essentially since for over a year now. This was back in June of 2024, where we kind of came up here and started heading down, and we broke through the moving average pretty decisively back in June of last year. So, 15 months ago, and we've been heading down ever since. So even, we had a long signal right here, and price did go up. I mean, it's not like you couldn't have traded this, but you can see it was a pretty weak, right? So for the next 2 weeks, price tried to go up. It rejected on the second week, and then we started heading down again. So the bearish signals in this case are probably better than the bullish signals, just in the fact that they're, following the overall trend down, okay? But, we had a long signal here. This is when the market was kind of consolidating. This goes back to a year and a half ago. But, we came up into the extreme long area, and we had a very big rally for 2 weeks. And the price stayed up near these highs for about 5 weeks and then finally started coming down. So the better signals are definitely when they come in the direction of the trend in terms of these reversals. Or not reversals, in terms of these getting into these extreme areas. But certainly you can play the counter trend moves on this as long as your expectations are realistic, knowing that if you're going against the daily or the weekly trend, I wouldn't get too overly aggressive. So until that trend on that time frame seems to change. All right. So right now on rice, I'm pretty neutral. We were up in this bought area here, and it did go up very shortly, but now it seems to be stuck right around there. All right, sorry guys, I had to stop the video for a second, so I forgot a little bit where I was. But anyway, so that's the deal with rice. Now let's quickly look at a couple of other ones here. We got 2 more to look at. We've got soybean meal. Now I looked at soybean oil, soybean meal, and soybeans alone, and I find the meal was probably the better of these to trade in terms of kind of following this COT index, especially for the commercial traders. This is another one where generally it's better when you take the signals in the direction of the trend. So again, This is the weekly chart. This is a 50 period simple moving average. And you can see if we start from like back here, when it comes out of the extreme short area, that's when this downturn really cranks. And then we have this long signal right here. Okay, when it comes into the extreme long period, obviously there's no trade, right? It comes into the extreme long position. This thing just keeps going down. I mean, there's one, half-hearted candle right here. Then right over here, it starts to come out and we start to put in some higher lows. And it does end up going up for, what is this? Like almost 2 months. It rallies all the way back to the moving average. So theoretically, yes, you could have a long here. Then it comes down, it comes back into extreme short position. And again, it starts to fall off again and so on and so forth. And then in here, we had, unfortunately, really sideways price action that's been going on since the beginning of this year. And it comes out here and it tries to rally. Again, this is a weekly chart, so this is a little bit of movement on short time frames, but it's pretty pathetic. And then same thing right here, comes out, it goes up for a couple of weeks. Right here, basically sideways, and then right here, it comes up, and again, it comes out, and it goes up for a couple more weeks. And then we come all the way back down. We don't really get into the extreme short, but we touch it, and then looks like price is going down again. So again, it's not that you can't trade those, but the better signals are when, on some of these markets, are when it's in the direction of the overall trend. 50 period moving average on the weekly chart is a nice guide. You don't really need it, obviously, because you can just look at swings. You can know there's a swing high here, a swing high here, swing high here, another one here, and then this whole area is all kind of liquidity sitting up above all these three highs. All right, but overall, the bottom line is on this is that I'd be looking for shorts. Now we're in this in between area right now, and so. And we did start to head up right here out of the extreme short position. And we had one little candle right here, but we're still kind of in this in-between area. So I don't know how much I really want to do with this in between these two zones. But, I mean, it does look pretty bearish overall. And the COT, the last swing was out of the extreme short zone. And so that generally does mean lower prices, but I would have felt better about it if I had caught this down here and I could have been holding on to this. So I'm not sure if I'll trade this right away, but let's just see what happens. And lastly, on corn, and again, with corn, again, this one, I don't know if I want to say this, but the corn generally follows this the best. And again, it tends to work best when it's in the direction of the trend, and it also tends to work best when price is either been in an extreme zone for a while or as it starts to come out. Okay, so right here, we came into this extreme short area. Well, the price was, look at the price chart. We're down here this extreme short, and the price was going up the entire time. It wasn't until here, that's right about on this candle right here, which is when it started to bend up and out again, when it started coming down. And then we got into this extreme long area. Price continued to go down, go down, go down, go down. And then look right here as it starts coming out of this area, we had this big bullish candle. Okay, so that's why I'm holding a bullish bias on corn. It looks like maybe we held this low. We have basically, we came out and we came all the way back. This is a huge, this started in August of last year, so it's been more than a year. It came up, came all the way back and retested this area, kind of held here and started moving higher. So we're still below the moving average, but to me, this is pretty bullish, and it's pretty clear. So my bias on corn is still long, even though the last couple of days, it's been really choppy. You can see the last couple of days. Let's zoom out a little bit. Here's the 4-hour chart. We've really struggled to go higher. We started to, and then now it looks like we're heading lower. So I'm not sure. We'll see what goes on. We'll see how the COT updates today. It could just be that market's taking a little breath. But we have this liquidity area here. This is kind of my line in the sand. As long as this area holds, we might even break this low. But as long as, this area holds, This is the 12-hour chart. I'm still overall bullish on this. We could just be in a pullback phase because the COD data, unless it really changes when the update comes out today, then if this thing continues to come down today, then that to me would still be fairly bullish for this market. Okay, so anyways, those are the 5 markets for now that I'm sticking with. So I got 3 grain markets, an energy, and a currency. So that's pretty good. I think for now I shelved like cattle and hogs. I shelved all the indices. I even shelved the 5-year T-notes, even though I really liked that. But the more I backtest it, the more I disliked it. So I've kind of put that one to the side for now. And I backtested metals before, and I wasn't really a big fan of that either. So I'm going to just stick to more of the pure commodities other than the Aussie dollar, which for whatever reason seems to follow this pretty decently. So, all right. So overall, though, pretty good week. And that's the update. So we'll see after the new report is published later today, and whenever these indicators update, we'll see. So maybe I'll make another video over the weekend, heading into next week once these things publish and we see these lines change up here. Okay, and that should be good. All right, guys. So as always, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel on your way out. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. And we'll leave it there. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk soon.